I want to go a little bit deeper and I want to view the money merge account system with regards to using this concept of interest cancellation and how this can work for the consumer. In order to do this, we want to set up a monthly budget for John and Rebecca Jones. We will say that John and Rebecca Jones have $5,000 of monthly net income. And the reason we stress monthly net is because you can't spend your gross. See, we want to know what is the client doing today with no alteration to their current situation. What are they doing today? What can Money Merge do for them tomorrow? We will define that John and Rebecca Jones have $4,000 in living expenses, and that would equate to everything they spend their money on. That would be considered expenses. This leaves John and Rebecca Jones $1,000 in discretionary income, and we define this as what is left over at the end of the month after all bills have been paid. So let's take a look at how this plays out. If we look at our first month on the Money Merge Account program, the Money Merge Account program has a $3,500 one-time activation fee. The product follows the client for life. Client is going to pay out that $3,500. They now owe that dollar amount. We'll say that they made that payment through a line of credit in order to achieve the Money Merge Account activation fee. Now, John and Rebecca Jones need $4,000 to pay their living expense, which they are going to draw from that as well, giving them a new average daily balance of $7,500. Let's take a look at interest cancellation. If they have a balance of $7,500, they are now going to apply their income or their paycheck to that balance, and that's going to reduce their average daily balance to a new adjusted average daily balance of $2,500. The great thing about that is that now the bank can only charge them interest on that $2,500. If I had a rate of interest of 10% on that $2,500, my total monthly payment would be $20.83. But let's review this and see what this looks like. John and Rebecca started with a balance of $3,500. They reduced that balance by $1,000 to $2,500 by applying all of their income through that, and discretionary income was buying down that balance. The lender was looking for a payment of $20.83, but John and Rebecca Jones never made a payment of $20.83. They made a payment of $5,000. What that basically means is that their income covered the payment that the lender was looking for. But let's see what this really plays out like. John and Rebecca Jones borrowed $7,500 of the bank's money. The bank, in turn, could only charge them interest on $2,500, not because of an agreement between John and Rebecca Jones and the bank, but because of how John and Rebecca Jones used the account, how they utilized the power of interest cancellation. What this means then, if the bank can only charge them interest on 25, the $4,000 that they used to pay their living expenses, they paid no interest on that money. That means that the ALOC actually became the interest cancellation account. And again, not by an agreement with the lender, but solely how John and Rebecca Jones utilized that account with the promptings of the Money Merge Account coaching system and software. Let's look at month number 2. We had a balance of $2,500. At different intervals throughout the course of the utilization of the Money Merge Account program, the program will prompt the client to move money from one account to another account to capitalize on interest cancellation, to capitalize on strategies to utilize their money to its greatest potential. So we'll say that the software has come online, created a line item for John and Rebecca Jones, and told them to send $5,000 from their line of credit payable to their primary mortgage. Now, being that we're in month 2, John and Rebecca Jones needs $4,000 to pay their living expenses for month 2, and that will give them a new balance of $11,500. Let's look at interest cancellation. John and Rebecca have a balance of $11,500. They're going to apply their $5,000 paycheck. That's going to give them a new adjusted average daily balance of $6,500. And again, as we saw in month 1, the bank can only charge them interest on $6,500. $6,500 at 10% interest would be $54.17 for the entire month's finance charge. Well, let's take a look at this. John and Rebecca Jones reduced their balance to $6,500. The bank was looking for $54.17 in finance charge, but they never actually made the payment of $54.17. They made a payment of $5,000. Now, I don't know what you all know about banking, and I don't know what you know about finance, But I think we can all agree if the bank's looking for $54.17 and we just sent in a $5,000 payment, that would drastically reduce the amount of interest we would pay, and it would drastically accelerate the amount of time that it would take us to pay that off. In other words, it would reduce our time to pay it off. See, their income itself covered the payment that was needed. There was no alteration in their current standard of living. They just utilized this account in the same fashion that they would utilize any other account, putting money in and taking the money out, putting money in and taking it out. It did not necessitate some new discipline, but what they now have is a visual representation of how that money directly integrates with one of the greatest debts they would probably ever incur. They borrowed $11,500 from the lender. The lender can only assess interest at $6,500. That would mean the $5,000 that they just used to buy down their primary mortgage, they paid no interest on that money. Basically, what just happened was they traded $23,304 of closed-in interest charges on that primary mortgage for the open-end finance charge on their line of credit of $6,500 for $54.17. So just for a moment, I have a question for you. How many of you out there, if somebody approached you and said, hey, listen, you give me $54.17 and I'll give you back $23,304, how many of you would be in on that offer? Sounds like a pretty good deal. What we know is through the Money Merge account, this will happen because it's not because we say so, it's because it is the banking strategies. It is the math that operates in this situation, and that is the power of the Money Merge account program with regards to interest cancellation. But let's give you one more example of interest cancellation. Let's say I've got my credit card and I go out on a shopping spree. Let's say I spend $500. Let's say I spend $600, and then at the end of the month I receive my bill. And when I get my bill, what I do is I pay the bill in full. I pay every penny. I have no balance remaining at the end of the month. I've paid it all in full. It would not matter if my interest rate was at 4% or my interest rate was at 20%. The bottom line is I don't pay any interest on that money whatsoever. What happened was I just used the bank's money interest-free for 30 days, and I'm sure many of you can relate to that scenario and have actually performed that scenario. You canceled interest. That is the concept of interest cancellation. Who can benefit from an interest cancellation strategy? Well, let's see. Clients with mortgage debt, clients with non-mortgage debt, clients with any debt, clients looking to build wealth.